Hi everyone, you're tuning in to the Decentralized Voices podcast. My name is Daria, and I'm excited to have Kevin Jones, a developer relations engineer at The Graph, as a guest on this show. Hi, Kevin.
Hey, how are you? So good to see you.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. And in this episode, we'll discuss strategies for building relationships with devs in the Ethereum ecosystem, explore the ideas of decentralization, and find success metrics for Web3 events and hackathons. So, guys, have fun and learn with us. Don't forget to like this episode and subscribe to the podcast. So, Kevin, I'm excited to have you. Please give a short overview of your background.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been working in Web3 for about 4 years. I guess if that's a term, Web3. I've been working for Edge and Node, which is one of the core developers of the Graph protocol. So they're original creators of the Graph. And I've been doing dev role there. I've also been highly active in the Ethereum ecosystem, specifically in the Build Guild, supporting Scaffold ETH, which is a starter kit for building on Ethereum. So anyone that's new into development should look at that. And then I've recently started a tool or application called Genesis, which is aimed at pairing up developers through mentorship and building community through community engagement. So this is me working with different communities all over the world, trying to bring these communities and bridge gaps with each other.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I know that you have very interesting story about you joining the space. So can you share it, please?
Yeah. So it's actually funny. I actually got started as like a volunteer photographer for a while. So I was shooting crypto conferences in Las Vegas. I was shooting Bitcoin conference. ETH Denver was one of my first Ethereum conferences as a actually volunteer photographer. And I had been like really diving into learning about smart contracts and stuff. And I was actually working for Nginx, which some of you listeners might know. Nginx is the world's most popular web server reverse proxy, a very popular Web2 tool. And I had just been doing a lot of like diving into Solidity, understanding smart contracts, like really trying to like figure it out. And so I was doing a lot of online hackathons, ETHGlobal more specifically. And that was great because I was able to really like start taking these workshops and like engage with devs on the Discord channel. And like I just really like, got obsessed with like ETHGlobal and Scaffold ETH. And I found about Scaffold ETH as well during that time, watching Austin's videos. For anyone who doesn't know, Austin's the creator of Scaffold ETH. And anyway, so I was doing photography and I had sent some emails out to Kartik from ETHGlobal. And I said, hey, like I'm really interested in giving back to the community and maybe I could like shoot photography for the ETHGlobal events. And I didn't hear back from him. And it was just happened that I was at ETH Denver walking around and I ran into him, and I was like, hey, like I'm Kevin. I emailed you. Here's the story. I gave him my background. And he was like, oh, that's amazing. Like, yeah, let me get back to you. So he did. He got back to me right away. And it was that same conference that I actually met Austin Griffith as well. I took Austin's photo. I took his picture on a stage. He was coming on like right after the governor had spoke. And I was like, oh, I got to get some photos of him. And when he came off stage, introduced myself. I've been obviously like a huge fan of Scaffold ETH and his work. And yeah, we connected on Telegram. And it was like a couple weeks later, he saw like a workshop that I had done just on my own time. Like I created a workshop and posted it on X and on YouTube. And I did it for my company. And he was like, oh, this is great. Like you should come do this for Build Guild. And so that was my entryway. Kartik hired me as a photographer to shoot events all over the world. And I would go to the ETHGlobal Hackathon. I would shoot photos. And then I would also give the Scaffold ETH workshop. And so it was a really cool way for me to do what my passion was at the time, which was Ethereum and also photography, and also travel the world and be involved. So yeah, it's a funny story and it's really cool way that through determination, I figured out a way to get active in the space.
It sounds exciting and it shows the real magic of Web3 community and offline events, actually. Now we see the thriving edge of offline events, and yeah, your story confirms this magic and that everything is possible in this community. That's really cool. So, can you please share what do you do as a DevRel engineer at Edge and Node?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned before, Edge Node is the original creators of the graph. And so Edge and Node as a company has evolved a lot. And now we're going to be doing some other products that we're building. We're reinventing the indexing stack with a new data ingestion tool that's going to be coming out actually at DevConnect. So we're hard working on that. So I'll be promoting that. We also just released Hypergraph, which is like a framework for building knowledge graph based applications, which is really cool because it's this kind of new way of providing write access to the graph. And then also, we're trying to dive a little bit into the AI space as well. So we're going to be promoting a lot around like X402 payments and agentic workflows and agentic economy stuff. And so there's a lot of exciting stuff coming. Depending on when this comes out, you might hear about that. And so really, yeah, it's a lot of like video content, it's a lot of workshops, it's a lot of traveling to hackathons and just like helping hackers and supporting the graph, obviously like highly involved in the graph ecosystem. And also along that journey, I also support Ethereum developers as well.
Yeah, and thank you. Speaking of supporting Ethereum developers, I want to ask you about BiddleGiddle. So can you give an overview of this community or like group of people? So explain what does BiddleGiddle do for Ethereum developers?
Yeah. So BiddleGiddle's a magical community. It's over 2,000 developers have kind of gotten involved over the years. And those could be developers that are just like building on Ethereum and have came across Scaffold ETH. The core team for Build Guild is probably about like 20 developers. And these are people that are working on the tools that we have as a DAO. So Build Guild is a DAO in the sense that it's funded through a Wyoming issued DAO. And it's primarily funded through the Ethereum Foundation. We do have some other grants that we get through, like Optimism and some other retroactive funding stuff. But primarily, it's funded through the EF, and its main goal is to help developers onboard to Ethereum quickly and easily. And so the primary way that's made possible is with Scaffold ETH, which is basically like a starter kit. So the original version of Scaffold ETH was created by Austin Griffith. And then since then, it's evolved into Scaffold ETH 2, which is a number of other developers, Arlo, Stiv, a bunch of really awesome developers that have built this new version that is based on Next.js and has, support for Hard Hat or Foundry. And it's like a starter kit. And then we also have like a lot of tools that help you like learn. One of those things is Speedrun Ethereum. If anyone wants to like really test their true skills, like, they should go to speedrunethereum.com because there's a number of challenges you take that kind of like check the boxes on like how well you really understand like what a smart contract is good for. And they teach you more about like game theory of the smart contracts. And so things like that. And again, it's about 20 devs working on tooling and support for the ecosystem. And I primarily support from a perspective of like integration with the graph. Like I help with the subgraph extension, and I also help doing DevRel type stuff, helping people at workshops, supporting the hackathons and stuff like that.
I know that you give a lot of workshops and talks, yeah, so it's really cool. And as a DevRel engineer, probably you know what kind of content developers like the most. What makes them happy in terms of education?
Yeah, I think it actually depends a lot actually on the developer. There's a lot of developers that have different learning styles. For like me, it's like video content is like my most useful. Maybe it's because I grew up watching a lot of TV or I don't know what it is, but I really can like dive in and learn something if I like watch someone else do it. And so my passion is a lot of that. I try to make like videos. I also try to make workshops that are like easy to follow along, very simple, but like get the mission across. But I think the most important thing is actually making challenge-based stuff. And what I mean is challenge-based is like you have to solve it yourself. And so there's this certain thing in your brain where like if you actually like do the task yourself and as opposed to just following, a map to get there, it's not as impactful. Again, I kind of, not to shill it, but Speedrun Ethereum does that, right? It actually gives you these kind of challenges that are focused on solving the problem versus just like telling you the answer. There's another one that I built for the graph that's called the Graph Builders Basecamp. So if you go to basecamp.thegraph.com, you can check that out. And that one teaches you about like building subgraphs, which are like the graph's APIs. And so same thing, that has challenge aspect. You actually have to like go through and think for yourself. And I think that content is the most valuable. And then on top of that is just like in-person events, like getting in front of a dev is 10 times more effective for me
Yeah.
because I can actually like answer questions. I can chat with them afterwards about something they're building, and it's a little more impactful too. So I think with all that, those are the kind of the main things I focus on.
Let's talk about decentralization because it's really interesting topic to discuss. For you, what does true decentralization look like? Can you explain?
Yeah, it's so funny because like the current state of, I guess, crypto is like decentralization is a meme. You probably hear that a lot.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of projects that that's definitely the case. And I think it's just because it is hard to fully like decentralize something. But I think
Uh-huh.
when I look at it as like decentralization is a focus versus like a feature. There's definitely these things that you can do to make your application more decentralized. And then there's things that you really like maybe still have to centralize for like certain reasons, compliance or whatever it is. And so it's really about trying to identify like, oh, like what decentralization in a true sense is like, oh, can this thing operate forever without any human intervention? Right. And so like I think from like a smart contract perspective, like this is what Ethereum is built for, right? Like this is what Ethereum really is. It's like
Yeah.
DeFi cannot be stopped. Stable coins, in the right context cannot be stopped, right? Like MakerDAO, XDAI, all this stuff. I think we're still working towards that goal. And I think it starts to get lost a little bit as the price goes up. But I think in the end, we'll always come back. Like you always like will reel back to this decentralization idea. And it's more of like a core like belief that you have that, hey, we can try to achieve this at the max we can. I don't think we'll ever be like, oh, everything is decentralized. It's just not doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. And so it's a pull and push kind of thing where you have to like find your battles and win those things. And this is why I love smart contracts so much. If you deploy a smart contract and hopefully the infrastructure is as decentralized as possible where you can just run a node and it will run, then that's amazing, right? You could just spin up. One of the cool things I love about sorry, I don't mean to rant, but one of the things I love about the Builders Base Camp that I built is it doesn't require any infrastructure. Like you can just check out the GitHub repository and you can just run with the smart contracts directly, and it utilizes a fully like decentralized system. And I think that there's something special about that where you could literally just bring up the app and it even the NFT minting functionality and the verification is all done with like Chainlink and Chainlink functions. And I think that's really cool. So I think we do need to focus on building stuff like that in the next coming years. It's just, like how do we really do it in a fully decentralized way? It's a challenge.
As a person focused on the Ethereum ecosystem, can you please share the main ideas, events, people who attract you in the Ethereum ecosystem?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. I started, I think it was probably 2019 when I really started to dive into Ethereum, maybe 2018 actually. And at the time, I think that like all of the KOLs or whatever you want to call them, the people that really like stood out to me were the people that were creating like the video content. Again, I really like video content. So like the YouTubers, I would listen to Nader Davitt and Patrick Collins and Austin Griffith and like those guys are all still very active. And I think that's super useful to like still follow those guys. In this current state, I feel like there's maybe a lot more people like building in public, which is cool. I think that's one of the things I try to strive to do is like try to like, yeah, like talk about what I'm building, things I care about, try to be as active as I can on social, obviously like crypto, Twitter, stuff like that. But I still follow Nader. I think Nader's a great view on like where we're at with a lot of stuff. He's constantly creating good videos that are like still very relevant. Austin
Huh?
is still a huge, like inspiration. Austin is very good about like determining where we need to get to go to the next
Yeah.
level. And I think he's still very focused on that. And so, there's some stuff he's doing like the university tour stuff, which is really cool with the EF. And so, yeah, I tend to still lean towards the video content stuff is where I get a lot of, and then also going to like, I guess the hackathons and seeing I like try to keep an eye on like new tools that are coming out, like new protocols and dApps and stuff. So a lot of those like ETHGlobal like speakers, ETHGlobal is still a huge signal, I think, in the space for Ethereum. And especially like the Pragma. They're always like really good. Like some of these like past founders that are coming out with new stuff, right? And new tools. It's really useful. So anything at Pragma is good, or ETH Global hackathons as well.
Yeah, thank you. I really like global activities, and in Cannes this year it was my first time participating in such a huge hackathon with almost 800 people. We didn't win any bounty, but it was super exciting and great experience to have. Yeah, now I have the sticker on my laptop that I demoed at ETHGlobal. So that's
Good feeling, right?
that's cool. Yeah, it's great, and you see people from different countries, different cultures, and you interact with them. We had guys from Mexico and from Peru, and we are Ukrainians, and we had this very diverse team, and it was great to discuss different topics not
That's
related
amazing.
to the project.
I know a lot of the guys at the Ethereum Mexico community, so I wonder if it was anybody I know. But yeah, that's awesome. Cool.
Yeah, and we saw each other the last time at ETH Warsaw. And you've been traveling around the globe for different conferences. Can you please share your personal success metrics of the event, like people, food, location? What makes you happy about the event?
Yeah, I think that's such a tough question to answer because, yeah, I've been all over the world. I've been to a lot of different hackathons. I actually tend to really like ETHGlobal hackathons are great. They're very like involved. There's a lot going on, but I tend to like to go to the very, very smaller hackathons that have like less people because I feel like I have more of an impact. There's less side events, that might be a hot take, but I feel like side events, like I know, like the last year or two, people are like, "Oh, so many side events." Like, I think that's a distraction. I like these ones where it's a little more like isolated. Even ETH Warsaw, actually, I went to ETH Warsaw last year, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, there was like not really that many side events. Like we had the ETH Warsaw in the main event. And then afterwards we went down into the Brower Hall and like hung out and like I got to like sit with devs and stuff. And so I tend to think that's the smaller the decentralization that we talked about decentralization, like getting the stuff pushed out more. And maybe yeah, I'm traveling to whatever country to like make an impact, but really like providing more value to the local community to be able to like go because there's a lot of people that can't go to like, Argentina, to like go to a thing, they can't go to Cannes, right? It's too expensive. It's
Yeah.
like, so I really like this. I think those are the ones that I like the most is where you can really like impact local devs. Like I was just in India, India
Yeah.
was amazing because, you know, it's like all these really passionate devs that maybe have never even been to the United States, and like had the chance to go to like, a good crypto event, but they really want to, they really want to get involved. And so something like that, even like India is obviously a huge country. This is in New Delhi, but it was really a different, like it's just different. It's very passionate and like that's what's interesting to me. And I hope we can do more of that and more empowerment around like local communities. I also help out a lot with like some communities in Africa. It's like shout outs like Web3 Mates, Nairobi blockchain. Yeah. But those are really powerful because like I can get in front of these people that probably maybe have never even left their like hometown, and I think that's special.
Yeah, and that's once again the magic of Web3 and decentralization that people who live in their local communities, they can still can build and develop and learn from global knowledge. And actually, like my next question was about the difference between like global and local developer communities. So maybe you can give like more detail on how you work with global and local communities or like more of your perspective.
Yeah, again, I think that's one of the things is like maybe I'll be lucky enough to go somewhere and run into someone that is leading, a local hackathon in a place that's very remote. Another a good example was I forget the name ETHBishek, which is like in Kyrgyzstan. I met his name is Kevin, actually. He goes by Kevo and we had a chat and like I'm going to be doing a workshop, in a couple weeks for him to like, teach some people from Kyrgyzstan about blockchain. I was going to try to go. I couldn't go because it just didn't work out time wise. But like those are the kind of things that I try to do when I'm at hackathons is like make a connection with just local. And I think that's the most powerful thing you can do is like you know, I don't want to say crypto influencer because that's not what I am, but like, like I am a developer relations engineer, but I am really like an evangelist actually. Like my last role at Nginx, I was an evangelist. That was like the old DevRel title. And I think that actually makes more sense, like aside from the like biblical connotations or whatever, but I'm trying to evangelize tech, right? I'm trying to evangelize like And that is where I can do it, is like more local stuff. And I think you can touch more people online than you can really in like person. But I absolutely love all of the, travel hackers at ETHGlobal and like all the energy they put in. There's this guy Julio that I see like everywhere. Like he's literally like every conference he's there.
Armando?
Yeah, no, Julio. Oh, I know Armando
Oh.
too. I know who you're talking about. I like him too. There's a lot of like people that I work with that are very much like just travel hackers. And I love that about that too. But I try to influence the ones that are like more remote. I think that's where I can make the most impact.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, I have the last question. Which crypto innovations do you think will make a positive impact on society in a year or 5 years or maybe longer?
Percent ZK stuff is gonna completely be the next unlock for like scalability, privacy, all that stuff. So yeah, I'm hoping the ZK continues to be a focus. I think a lot of developers are put off by ZK because it's kind of moon math and like very hard. But I think that it's actually a critical part of probably the next 5 years. Vitalik talks about it all the time, right? Like we need zero knowledge as a basic primitive in like pretty much everything in blockchain. So I hope that we can get there. Maybe like more like shorter term would be just in general, like privacy based stuff. We talked about decentralization earlier as being like a priority, but I actually think like privacy stuff would also be very like a good focus for people versus decentralization, because obviously you need both. But I think we need to reel back and think more about privacy, because as more institutions are getting involved with crypto and blockchain, that comes with these other like things that we want to protect ourselves against. And not to sound cliche or anything, but like, it should be a focus for everybody building in the space to like figure out how you can make stuff more private. And right now is that not the case. There's a lot of stuff that's it's not private. So
Yeah, thank you very much. I hope you liked this conversation, and I hope our listeners and viewers will also like it. So, guys, thanks for your attention. I will leave all Kevin's links under this episode so you can follow him, ask him questions about Ethereum, about building on Ethereum with Graph and with BiddleGiddle. Thank you, Kevin, again. It was super cool to have you.
thank you so much for having me, and thank you everyone for tuning in. Appreciate your time, guys.
Yeah, so see you in the next episode. Bye.